Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I'll bet some of you are wondering what I am thinking right now. And I'll also bet that some of you remember having this toy as young folks. I know I did, not this exact one. This was actually a Valentine's gift a few years ago. And I keep looking at it in my studio and wondering how to incorporate it in my mixed media work. And I keep thinking, boy, I would love to find a way to use this in conjunction with my jelly plate. And then it occurred to me, I know exactly how to make that happen. So today, that's what we are going to do. I'm going to open this guy up and show you all of the wonderful little pieces in here. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. If you're not, this was a popular children's toy from, I don't actually even know how far this goes back. I was little in the early 80s, and this is what we played with back then. But basically, if I can make this work here. Oh, okay, all of these little trays are separate. It consists of these little plastic pieces that you fix down, and then these little wheels go around inside. The little wheels have holes in them that you put a pen in, and you make these circular designs. So I have figured out a way to use this in conjunction with the gel plate. You can't use it directly on just by the nature of how this works, but I'm going to show you a way that you can make some fun collage papers and prints using the Spirograph with your gel plate. So stick around and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to need for this, other than the Spirograph, is a ballpoint pen. This pen does not need to necessarily have ink in it. It doesn't need to, because all you're really looking for is the pressure that you create from it. The next thing you need is just a stack of papers. What you're looking for here is just a soft surface that the pen is going to be able to sink into, because essentially what you're going to be doing is creating a resist sheet with the ballpoint pen. And I'm going to demonstrate what I mean here in just a second. So let's just take my pen and I'm going to just randomly draw a little cartoon lobster. I'm pushing very hard because I'm going to show you here. You want that impression to be able to be seen. And it doesn't matter which side of this you use, because you can get a different print from each side. Let me just get my little lobster guy down here. I can feel the impression of that on the other side, which means it is on this side as well. So now I'm just going to go ahead and ink up my jelly plate like I normally would. That's a tiny little drawing, so I'm not going to waste a whole lot of paint. Just gonna get enough on there to get him Don't want to press too long. You're just picking up that excess paint, and it's a little bit faint there, but you can see the impression of the lobster that it left on the plate. And I'm going to use the same exact sheet of paper to pick him up. Just like you would a normal gel print. I'll let this sit for a second. And we've got a print of the lobster. It's not very clear, but you can see what I'm getting at here. So I'm going to get this plate cleared off, and I'm going to make a design with my Spirograph with you next. I'll be right back. Okay, so after some trial and error, I've found that watercolor paper works really well for this. Mixed media paper would probably work as well. So something a little bit thicker, which makes sense because you're going to want something that's going to have a little bit of give to it. So I have my little circle piece here, and this comes with a gum adhesive to adhere it down to your surface. But like I said, this is an older one here, and that has dried up. So I'm just using a little bit of painter's tape just to get it stuck down onto the surface so that it doesn't move on me, and that's perfect. Now I'm going to get my ballpoint pen out here, and I picked this little piece here that I'm going to use to make my little design in the center. So I'm just picking one of these circles, pressing down a little bit, and just going to start making my pattern. I'm pressing down a little bit hard, but not so hard that it's going to dig up the paper. You don't want it to go through because then it's just going to mess up the design. And you can play with this as much as you want, add as much or as little design as you would like. I do find though, because I'm pressing so hard, the further out around the edge you get, the more it wants to skip off of the paper. So just keep that in mind. For this first one, I am going to just do that little design there. Now I'm just going to get out a little bit of black paint. We don't need a ton because all I'm doing is picking up that one little area. So don't need to waste a whole bunch of paint. And you're going to do this much like you would a magazine image transfer. So by that, I mean you're going to put it down, go over it, but you don't really need to let it lay down very long. And you can see the image that was transferred. I didn't get a very clear print there. I could have left it sit a tiny bit longer. The longer that you let the paper sit on a transfer when you're doing it, the more likely you are to not get an image to transfer. So if you're having that issue with your LaserJet prints or with your magazine transfers, that's probably the issue that you're having. You're leaving it down on the paper too long, and it's removing all of the ink instead of just that layer that is on top of the toner, if that makes sense. Now, obviously, there's like some ink that is inside the design there. I'm not worried about that, but what I do want to do is clean up all of this paint that's around the edges. There's no sense in printing that. So I'm just taking a wet shop towel here, and I'm just going to go through and clean that up. Okay, and as far as the cleaning up process goes, you can get as detailed with that as you want. I just did a shop towel around the outside edges. You could get a cotton swab and go in and clean up inside each of those if it was something you were concerned about. So just something to think about with your other prints as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this up with some of this light pink. Again, I don't need a ton on there. That's actually probably way too much, but just make sure that your image is covered. And because I have a sheet sitting right here, I'm going to pick this up on a piece of tissue paper. I'm going to give this a second to dry, and we'll be right back. All right, I let this dry. Actually, I cheated and used a cool hair dryer to speed up the process, as I usually do. And we're picking up our print, and there we go. I'm going to do a couple more of these, see if I can get a little bit of a clearer print there for you all. We'll see what we can. Okay, I'm going to try this oblong kind of football shaped one and see what we can get here. This one feels very odd when you're doing it because of the movement of it, so it kind of feels like it's jumping off of the track, but it's actually not. And then I'm going to just add one of these spiral ones in here. One thing to let you know, and I think I mentioned this before, the further out you get with this, the more it wants to lift up, which makes sense because you're pressing down close to the edge and it wants to come off of the track in there, and I found it very difficult to keep that from happening. So I'm going to, especially for demonstration purposes, keep everything towards the center here a little bit more, just so we can make sure to get a good print. Okay. Let's get this guy off to the side. I go in with a little bit of black paint again. I'll lay my design down. I'm gonna just use a pickup sheet. And it is at this exact moment that the battery in my little microphone died, so I am going to just be voiceovering the rest of this. So I'm basically just doing the same thing that I did before, pulling that up and revealing my design. And you can see that there's a lot of that visual noise in the background because that watercolor paper has a texture on it. So I'm just going to go in and clean that up again like I did before with my shop towel, and we'll get it good and cleared off. This time I just wanted to show you, I'm going to go in and clean out those tiny little parts in there, and I'm using a bamboo skewer that I'm just wrapping my shop towel around, and that's a damp towel, and I'm just going in and very lightly wiping away that excess paint that I don't want in there. It's just another way that you can clean up your prints a little bit if you've got some extra paint on there that you didn't necessarily want to be there. Now I'm just going to go ahead in with a little bit of Naples yellow and pick up that design there. I like to keep things pretty well contrasted when I'm doing these demos, just so you can really see what I'm talking about. Not that this is rocket science. And I mean, again, this is not like going to be some kind of great finished artwork. I just thought it would be kind of a fun little thing to do. I've never seen anybody else use the Spirograph in conjunction with the Gelli plate. Maybe they have and I just haven't seen it, but I just thought it would be kind of funny and cool to do, so that's what we're doing here. Again, I'm picking up on that same sheet of tissue paper because I had plenty of room left on it and I didn't want to waste another sheet. So I'm going to just go ahead and let that dry and we'll see what we come up with. I just think these are cute. They're like little flowers almost, and if you have seen any of my other videos, you know I really like to work with flowers in my collages. I could just see a whole bunch of these in different colors collaged onto a canvas to make a large project, so maybe that's something that we will be doing in the future. Okay, so for this next example, I am going to use that little teeny tiny piece right there and just go around and make a design, and I'm going to do something a little bit different with this one. So my thought here was to try to keep the spaces a bit bigger, but that didn't actually end up working, but I ended up working around that. So I have this small design around the outside, and once I get all of those filled in, I'm going to use another Spirograph piece on the inside to make a bigger design. And I'm getting out my Gelli plate there. Again, I'm going in with some of the black paint because I like to be able to really see the design with that black. I'm rubbing that just very gently to make sure the design transfers. I feel like we got a good transfer there on that one finally, and I'm just cleaning up around the edge like I did before with my damp shop towel before I go ahead and do the next step. So with this one, instead of just doing a straight pickup, I thought it would be really cool to try to color in some of those spaces with my Posca pens, my acrylic paint pens. And if you're interested in those, there will be a link in the description with those and a lot of my other frequently used items. Now, if you haven't used these Posca pens, they're awesome. I highly recommend them. They're great with the gel plate. They're great just in general on mixed media pieces. And they work just like acrylic paint because they are. They're just acrylic paint markers. Now, Posca is the name brand. I believe Michaels sells a store brand that is a little less expensive if you wanted to try those out. Actually, speaking of Michaels, this isn't Michaels, but I wanted to give you a quick public service announcement. As I'm sure a lot of you are aware, Joann Fabrics is closing several of their stores, like the majority of them, and they are in liquidation this week. I was in there the other day, and mine is unfortunately one of the ones that is closing. And they told me that they are only accepting gift cards until the end of this month, which would be Friday the 28th, and that is coming up. So I just wanted to make sure you were all aware of that in case you were sitting on any gift cards. I would hate to see them go to waste. So just get down there and check with your local, but that's what they told me. So anyway, I finished coloring that in with my acrylic markers there, and I'm just picking that up with some titanium white, just going over that very quickly, and I'm going to pick that up again on another sheet of tissue paper there, and I'm going to give that a second to dry, and I will show you what happened. And here's the reveal, and that turned out pretty cool. So basically, you can work with the Spirograph just like you would with any other transfer, because all you're doing is creating an indentation with your ballpoint pen, which is therefore allowing you to pick up that image off of your gel plate. So here are the 3 that we made today, and again, you can do this to whatever extent you would like. Make as many details as you want or as few, and collage them, color them in, do anything that you would like with these. But I thought it was just a fun little project, and you could actually use that sheet that you used to lay the image down. You could use that again. You wouldn't be able to use it indefinitely, but you could probably use it multiple times. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you have ever heard of anybody doing this, or if you want to give it a try yourself. And thank you for hanging around with me through this little fun experiment. And no, I haven't lost my mind. I just thought it would be kind of cool. So again, thank you all so much. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't had a chance yet, please subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great one.